All right. Feeling a little spicy today. We're coming in with a hot take. The topic is more people need to overtrain. Before everyone freaks out though and clips that out of context, we're not saying that you should be chronically overtraining, going in 7 days a week, destroying yourself, ignoring recovery. Because of course recovery matters, balance matters. We preach that all the time. That's like a core philosophy in what we do at Unbreakable. The truth is, most people are nowhere near overtraining or anywhere near their capacity. People are under challenge, so they're stopping sets early and they're leaving a bunch of reps left in the tank, and a bunch of results in the tank because of that. Um, they're mistaking discomfort for effort and then wondering why their body isn't changing. So we want to break down the difference between training hard and just feeling like you're training hard.
Yeah, so we see this a lot with people. Well, I was going to say people that are new to the gym, but we see it all the time. Actually, I kind of expect to see it less from the people who've been there for years, but we see it. It's pretty common all over. It doesn't really matter. Let's just be honest. It doesn't really matter who you are. We see it a lot, right? So you could ask somebody like, what's your intensity in the gym? Like, are you really pushing yourself? Are you challenging yourself? And you think a lot of people will be like, yeah, like I'm going at it, man. And I'll give you a personal example. I think especially those that have been doing this for a while, I think you kind of get in this like really good routine and you feel really good about the different exercise, even if you have different plans and you rotate out different number of sets and reps and exercises, you kind of just get in this really good routine. And so it was actually last year about this time, I was like, I want to start like writing down, getting back to it. Cause I did that when I was younger. I would write down like everything and I was really intentional about, okay, let's try to push myself in reps and volume. And then as I got older, I was like, I know what I'm doing. I don't have to write all this down. I know when I go in there. And I was like, I'm going to get back into it. I started writing down everything I lifted, how much. And then I started looking, I said, I am not pushing myself hard enough. Like, I'm really not. I was like, this is kind of like a really good place for me. And I'd be like, oh, I'm pushing myself. I'm challenging myself. This is about all I can do. And I'd go for an extra rep. I'd get it. I'd bump up the weight a little bit and it was manageable. I was like, man, I have not been challenging myself very much. And so for the new person, and we'll talk about this, but I think the intensity stuff, they're almost, it's a lack of confidence. Maybe they're a little bit afraid. They don't want to get hurt. They're just really unsure a lot of things. And I think for the person that's been doing this for a long time, we just get in that big routine, right? Um, this was funny too. This came up the other day. I was talking to one of our clients, and he was like, "I'll be honest with you, I really don't love lifting weights." I was like, "Okay, I mean that's fine. We're not asking you guys to be obsessed or love everything, but I'm just curious, like why you don't." And he was like, "Well, I mean," and he was mainly taking classes, and that's part of the problem. But he was like, "Well, I go in there and I lift it, I do what I'm supposed to do, and I'm just kind of like, it's just nothing to it." And I know he's a big numbers guy. I was like, "Well, do you love numbers?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, every time you go in there, I want you to be more intentional. I want you to think about pushing yourself on the reps. Think about how many reps we're doing, how many sets we're doing, how much weight we're doing. And I want you to actually think about that and challenge yourself. And you can look at it as a game or whatever, but I want you to not just go in there and be numb and just go through the motions." And he's like, I actually kind of do that. I was like, I just go in there and just do what I'm told. And he said, maybe I would like it better if I actually was thought about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. There's a purpose behind every single set. And so right away I was like, oh man, this guy is going to crush it. Like I
Oh,
know,
yeah.
so yeah, but I think this is going to be a good episode and I think it's going to be very applicable to a lot of people.
Yeah, even with that example, like I already know he's gonna fall in love with it, just like most people do. When it's like, yeah, you need that goal. You need to see the progress, and part of it is too the progress. Because if you're going in just going through the motions, you're like, oh, what's the point? Because like you don't just go to the gym and then immediately get jacked. It's one of those things that takes a long time. It's just compounding day after day, week after week, month after month. So like sometimes if you're not seeing the results immediately, it can be tough to like want to stick to it. But that's kind of the immediate results that you're getting is when you see the numbers go up. And when you see the progression and the strength and like you feel a lot more capable and confident, that makes the journey a hell of a lot more enjoyable too.
Yeah, there's so many factors involved in terms of progressing through or growing and becoming healthier, right? And a lot of times we get stuck on the scale or other things, and it's sometimes just really hard to measure all that. The one thing we can definitely measure is, are you getting stronger, right? How do we do that? We look, are you able to lift with more reps? Are we able to lift more weight? And that's a numbers thing. You can look at that data on a page, say, well, 100%, I know you're stronger because you're lifting more weights. I had a client the other day, an in-person client I was working with, and I said, we were just talking about her progress, and I was like, I mean, you've gotten so much stronger. And she said, I mean, I think I have. And I said, well, we know for sure you've had because you were lifting twice as much now as you did like 2 years ago. So it's like
Yeah.
no doubt or question, like 100%. We know for sure.
Yeah, and going back to what you said earlier too about this doesn't just apply to people who are new in the gym. This applies to anyone. I think no matter how long you've been in the gym, this is something that you always have to be intentional about, really pushing yourself. Like you said, like, you're what, like 20 years into your training career. I'm over a decade into mine. And this is still something I have to catch myself on every single time I'm going in and training. I think I'd argue even that the more you get into it, it's like the more this is important because like you've already kind of maximized a lot of areas or like your form is really good, control all that. So it's like intensity is what really matters and really be able to push yourself. And I find it like one is a great way, like you were saying, is to track the numbers and stats for all of your workouts. But I always catch myself when I record myself and I watch it back. Because when you're doing the set and you're like, oh yeah, I'm pushing myself, like I'm feeling good, then you watch it back, you're like, oh, I had like way more left in the tank. That was way too easy.
Yeah. And I mean, you can just take a few minutes, just watch people in the gym. And let's just take the person that looks like they have good form and they looks like they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing. And there's a lot of times where they'll put that weight up and you're like, you can just look at him and be like, I bet you he could have gotten a couple more in there. And we're not talking about maxing out every time. We're not talking about pushing it to limit every single time, but even just, I bet he could have gotten a couple more and still had another one or two in reserve type of thing.
Yeah, I actually saw a tweet today that I think I quote tweeted, and it was like, look around in the gyms, like no one is training anywhere near their potential. And I kind of, this is where this topic came from too, because like I've been thinking about it a lot, I've been and posting about it a lot, but I'm like, yeah, like we all want to be comfortable. And like this isn't coming from a place of judgment either. It's like naturally we want comfort, our brain wants safety. And so when things start to get uncomfortable, especially physically, your brain starts to convince you that's enough, you're tired, like you can't do any more. But meanwhile, you have another 3, 4, 5 reps left in the tank.
Yeah, you're right. Our body, our minds are there. I mean, it's designed to want us to be safe and chill and relaxed and not all out effort type of thing. And so it is. It's really easy to go into the gym and especially now with technology and everything like that, it's so easy to just be like, all right, I'm gonna kind of numb out. I'm gonna try to just get in there and just do what I'm supposed to do and then leave and say I got my workout in and not be very intentional with my workout.
Yeah, and this is why I say too that training is like 90% mental because like you said, you can just go in and go through the motions. You're not going to see any results. You can go to the gym for years and not see any results if you are just in that mentality. But when you put the intention into it, it makes a hell of a difference. And I was talking to one of my clients too about this because we're actually in a phase where we're like he's a beast. Like it's Sean. We've had him on the podcast, so he's the man. But we're actually like doing more of like a recovery phase and pulling back from like a lot of the high volume and intensity that we've been doing because it's just been taking a toll on his body. And for him, it's a tough mental block doing that. But I'm like, yo, you don't need to do more to get more results. You just need to have more intention. So it's like whatever you're doing is like do it with more intention. That's what's going to get you results as opposed to like doing more and adding more sets and volume and all this other stuff. It's just the intent.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think I think that's really common among beginners. They get in there and they feel like I need to do as much as possible, especially if they're coming from a place of self-hate. We've talked about this where they're not happy. Instead of coming from a place of I want to improve myself, I want to punish myself, then they want to do as much as possible, as long as possible, and they think that that is what they need to do to make changes. And it's like actually one of the few things in life where like if you do more of it, it's not going to be good for you, type of thing. So let's talk about why this matters for your physique changes or when your body's going to change. Um, you know, we want you to like, we always promote consistency and you've got to be in there. You got to show up. But I think a lot of times the people that do that get to sometimes they get too consistent where they're just like, hey, I showed up, I did my workout. It's like my uncle used to say one day, you go, check the box, like check the box type of thing. But there is a difference. If you've got a point where, hey, I'm getting in there 5 days a week, every week, for years, then you've got the consistency down. And that's not going to create enough stimulus to make any change. And we see this a lot with cardio too. I mean, there are people that could probably run circles around me out there on the track or long distance, whatever. But they look like they never worked out before. That's because their body's been so adapted and they do the exact same thing every single day. And that their bodies is totally adapted. They're like, oh yeah, we can run a couple miles with no problem at all. We don't need to change our body at all. I really feel like this is a really good place where one of my clients, I feel like this is where he really got over that kind of like plateau part where he started to see some big time mega results. And he was going to the gym, he was doing what he was supposed to do, but I think it was that lack of confidence a little bit. He'd go in there and he's like, I'm just not sure if I should lift heavier. I don't want to hurt myself." And it took a long time. It took a lot of just conversations about, "Hey, I want you to push yourself just a little bit, like one more rep." And we get to a certain rep range, we get to the top of that rep range, let's add a little bit of weight. And finally, he got to that point where he was growing in confidence, that he was feeling really good about, it, and he started to do that. And then it was like, boom! Now we started seeing some major changes.
That's where having an outside perspective and a coach can be so helpful because, like you said, like when you're in it, you think you're doing the most that you can. You feel like that you can't push anymore. But from our perspective, it's like we know the limits, we know them inside and out. Like we know what like true training looks like. So it's good to have that outside perspective. Like, no, actually, like you got this. You're way more capable than you think. You're way stronger than you think. Like, let's push a little bit more.
Well, and there's a lot of times too where I've worked out by myself, and then every now and then someone might say, "Hey, you want a spot?" And or I'll ask somebody for a spot, and then you're like, "Yeah, I'll be good." Hop on, and I'll push myself a little bit, and then you do like 2 or 3 more than you normally do because you have that confidence someone's there to lift the weight if you need it, and you're like, "Man, like I should probably be asking for a spot a little more often because I got a couple more." And again, not where like I'm struggling, I can't even lift the bar off my chest type of thing or whatever exercise I'm doing, but I still had 1 or 2 in reserve, and I was still able to get a couple more than I normally do, and that's when you're really gonna start growing and building some really good muscle.
That helps too. Or if there's a someone at the gym that you're trying to impress, suddenly you got a lot more reps in you. I don't know.
That is, I had a friend of mine, I remember, in college, this guy, Adam, shout out if you ever listen to this, but he was just a funny guy, a very unique personality, but funny guy, and he would go to work out, and he's like, "All right, what girl should I lift this set for?" And, like, he always had these, like, handful of crushes, right? And I was like and he'd like, "I'm lifting this for blah, blah," and then he'd get on there, I was like, "Let's go, let's do it for a cylinder," and he'd get he'd be like, "Yeah," and he'd knock it out, and be like, "Oh, man, I got a couple more reps than normal," and it was
So
it was just
funny.
that motivation for him, but, it was quite comical, but yeah, he did that intentionally, man, it really helped him to push himself.
That's one way to do it. I've never heard of that technique before, but I like it.
It was great,
You
he had
you
some
look over
pretty
there,
good.
she's not even paying attention. Just like completely another world.
Yeah, 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 but it was awesome, it was awesome.
But yeah, it's like to your point, your body is an adaptation machine. You're like everything when it comes to nutrition with like calories that you're at, with any sort of training stimulus that you give it. Like everything, your body is meant to adapt. And so with training, you need to give your body reason to build and get stronger. Like you're telling it, we need more muscle, we need more strength, we need to improve. So if every workout feels the same, or the other week I know you're talking about the clients that are like, oh, yeah, this is my weight. Like, no, if you're using the same weight every single week, your body has no reason to respond and grow and build. And that's what's going to get you the results. That's what's going to build you more muscle, improve your metabolism, accelerate your fat loss, everything.
Yeah, and I get the okay, so we always push form first. We always wanna make sure that and we tell our clients, treat it like a skill, master the skill, make sure you're really good at it, and once you feel really good with the form and you are mastering the form, then that's where we wanna start pushing ourselves, right? And that's what we're talking about now. So you feel really good about the lift, and, we want some intention behind it, so you're going in there, you're trying to increase those reps until you get to that top of the range, increase that weight, keep going. I hear a lot of people say, "Well, I want to listen to my body too. I don't want to hurt myself." And that's fair, especially if you've had history of injuries. You don't want to hurt yourself more. But a lot of times your body is like, I'm not like it's almost more of like I'm a little uncomfortable here. I'm gonna stop. And you listen to your body's like, okay, well, I'm gonna stop here because it's not feeling great, right?
I don't know. Like I with that, I think you need to earn the right to listen to your body. It's like I like what you said too about like caveat. All this is like we're talking about is like once you have a good foundation, once the form and everything is good, like we want to push ourselves. And typically it's to what I recommend for people is like 3 to 0 RAR, which is reps in reserve. How many reps you have left in the tank at the end of your set. And it's a kind of a broad range because it depends on your programming and how things are phased out. But like generally, that's a good range for you to be at. And good program will like have it structured out that way. Uh, but yeah, it's like, you need to earn the right to listen to your body. If you have no idea what true failure is, like you're going to be stopping like 10 reps shy of failure and thinking that have 1 or 2 reps left in the day. Like you just have no idea what that is until you experience this. That's why we're like, you need to get to that point like where you know your limits. Like you've gotten to like the absolute end of the limits and like really build that awareness so then you can listen to your body on when you need to pull back. Because a lot of people are just mistaking that discomfort for like true or like they sometimes even people think it like hurts or like, oh, I feel pain. I'm like explain it. And they're like, oh yeah, like my muscles are burning. I'm like, that's like what you're supposed to feel. That's not pain. Like there's a difference between like pain, like something's wrong, and like your muscles getting activated, like you're working.
Yeah, yeah, you're right, and when you get that lift, you feel your muscles engaging, right? Like you feel they're working hard. And there is a difference between being sore for like 3 or 4 days afterwards. Like that you overdid a little bit, and that's a little bit too much. But man, you're gonna feel a little bit of it, and you're like you said, that word pain is gonna have a different definition for who you and that's why you gotta ask if someone's like, "Oh, that kinda hurt." What do you mean it hurt? Like, "Oh, well, it was really hard." Well, that's not mean it hurt,
Good.
so like, it's a totally different definition than pain.
Yeah.
Like, we don't wanna cause an injury here. There was I know you haven't seen this movie. Great football movie, The Program, and, there's this, like, it's about basically about a, D1 college football program. Awesome movie. You haven't seen it, guys, go out and watch it. There's a freshman that comes on campus, and he's in practice, and he gets absolutely drilled. He's like a running back. He gets knocked down. He's just sitting there, and the coach goes over and he says, "Are you hurt or are you injured?" And he's like, "I don't know, man. What's the difference?" And he's like, "Hurt, you can get up and go play. If you're injured, we gotta take you off the field." And that kinda makes me think about, like, was it hard or you're gonna injure yourself to where you're not gonna be able to do something in the future, right? And most of the time it's, "Well, it was just hard."
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. Or even just like people don't feel like it, or they're not feeling motivated, or they don't want to push, or they're tired. So they're like, "Oh yeah, I need to listen to my body. I need to rest and calm." I'm like, no, absolutely, like no, you need to push.
And they push and there are times, I mean, there are times where, it's okay to go in there and, just showing up is a win. But if we really checked ourselves and are honest with ourselves, the majority of times that we tell ourselves that, it's just because we don't wanna to push ourselves that day. We don't wanna have to go through that hard work.
Which again, like it's okay if there's those days where it's like I'm just gonna show up and like sometimes it is just surviving, like going in and checking the box. But it's like, yeah, like you said, majority of the times like we want to go in with that intent. That's also where like proper coaching and programming comes into play too. Cause like with one of my clients, literally last week I told him, actually, guess what? Like you don't have to go to the gym at all. If you want to, cool. If you want to like play around and try some different exercises, cool. If you want to go do a yoga class or you just want to walk, whatever, it's like that's the plan for this week. And funny enough, she actually wanted to go and train. Because after she enjoyed, she's like, "Oh, like, I actually, like, it felt more motivated." Like, there's times for that, but for the vast majority of people, the vast majority of the time, you should probably be pushing yourself a little bit.
Yeah, and I was gonna say it doesn't really matter, whether you go by yourself, whether you have a workout partner. I mean, it's definitely doable no matter what the circumstances, no matter what kind of gym you're in, no matter where. I mean, I've gone to the gym where there's nobody in the gym and still pushed myself. And I've gone with buddies or I've worked out with other friends and pushed myself. Like it's really up to you whether you're going to push yourself and challenge yourself and make a difference for that day. All right, so let's talk about knowing your limits if you've never tested them. Right. So, I mean, how do you really know what your limits are? How can you tell someone that's a little beyond what I can do if you haven't tried it? If you don't know what that all out effort feels like, we don't recommend maxing out all the time. But once you do get really good at form, every now and then it is good. It's great just to see like how far you can push yourself. You don't know your limits unless you really test them. Right? You have to go in there. And sometimes we get stuck too. I was going to say sometimes we get stuck too on how many sets and reps we do. And so like if we put in a program for a client and it says like 10 to 12 reps, sometimes you'll have those people that stick within those 10 to 12 reps no matter what. And that's one thing I've tried to encourage people to say, okay, like that's a good way to know whether you need to go to the next weight. right? Like if let's say it's 10 to 12 reps, you're consistently getting 12 reps. Well, you need to bump up the weight and try to get, closer to 10. But I also think it's totally fine to try a new weight and get like 6 reps and be like, okay, good lift. I want to stay within the 10 to 12. So that might be a little bit too high of a weight right now, too much of an increase. But I know that I could do 6 reps. That's pretty cool. And it's not a wasted set or anything like that. Or even if you just listed 3 reps and you're like, wow, that was way too much. Okay, cool. Great set. Go back and just line it up a little bit. So sometimes we get so stuck on certain numbers and certain plans that we have to do this that we aren't able to explore whether we can push our limits.
Mhm. I was thinking about that earlier because when you were mentioning tracking your numbers in your workouts to make sure that you're progressing and pushing yourself hard enough, I immediately thought of like sometimes that doesn't work. 'Cause even with clients, like I can look at their numbers from their workouts and be like, immediately know like you aren't pushing hard enough. You aren't hitting the intensity that I've set just by looking at their numbers and their stats. Because a lot of times, like you said, like we do hold ourselves back. It's like, yeah, we're pushing, we're getting one more, we're doing another rep, we're adding a little bit of weight, but we aren't actually going to the intensity. So I always tell clients is like go to the intensity that I've prescribed you, not necessarily the rep range. Like it's a good to like fall within that range. That's what we want to aim for, but it's more important that we hit the intensity. And it may fall, like you said, you may get a little bit less, you may get a little bit more, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. I mean, you can build muscle on like 2 to 3 reps to 20 reps. I mean, there's a lot of different rep ranges. So you're still going to see results. You're still going to see progress. So it's okay to play around with a little bit, and it's okay to not be exactly where you're supposed to be in that rep range. You can have fun with it sometimes too. You go in there, I don't see what I can do on this, and you can always
Hmm.
stop. Right? I mean, especially if it's something where you need a spotter, have a spotter. If it's something like a bicep curl, and you can't lift it up. Oh well, put the weight back down.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, like you gotta push yourself to find those limits before you can pull back. And even I think about too is like when people do crazy endurance sports or like any crazy race or like any crazy feat of, like, athletic ability, usually it's, like, you get to that point where you're tapping, you're like, "Oh, I cannot go any farther," and then, like, there's another gear, it's like you can there's a lot more like, whatever your limits are, there's exponentially more, and, like, we just have to unlock that part of our brain, which is so hard, and, like, most people will never even find that, like, I think 99% of people will never even find out, which is normal and expected. But it's like, we're so much more capable of than what like, it's all in our head. Like, we can achieve really anything that we want, and it's just mental. It's crazy.
Well, and I do not know the research on this. I'd have to look it up, but I can give you generalities and hit the point. There used to be at one point where like the 5 minute mile for endurance runners was like almost impossible, and like no one had hit it, and then someone hit it, and it was like this like huge like multiple decades worth where no one could get to like to that close to 5, and then someone hit it, and then all of a sudden like within the next like 3 years like 20 people hit it, and it was like so it's just someone did it, and they're like maybe I should push myself to try to get this. Maybe I can. Maybe
Mhm.
it is doable.
For sure. Yeah, I feel like that's such a good example, and it could apply to so many different things in life too. It's like once you know that it's possible, and it's like, "Oh, okay, like I can do it."
Yes, yeah, you're right. It is applicable to so many different things in life. A lot of times we hold ourselves back in a lot of different ways, and it's like, hey, you just got to go do it, and you never know. Yeah, I think
Everything
it's
is
cool.
mental.
Yeah, it really is. There's so much mental. I think it's really cool too when you see a kid that feels like they can't do something, and you show them they can do it, and they can do it, and their eyes just like light up, like whoa, like I can do this. Like this is pretty awesome.
Yeah, like even kinda like we were talking about with our client too, where they realize it's like, "Oh, like I am a lot more capable." And sorry, even clients like they overcome injuries and they get strong, and then they realize they can go and train and push themselves. Like it's such a good feeling, and seeing that progression every week, it like that's what makes the journey so much more enjoyable.
Well, think about you go to the gym and, you push yourself beyond what you ever thought you could do. And your confidence starts going, what do you think is going to happen? That's going to start domino affecting everywhere. Maybe at your job, you're like, well, maybe I should ask for that promotion. Maybe I should go out and hang out with these friends I've been wanting to hang out. Whatever it may be, all of a sudden you're trying maybe I want to learn this new hobby. Maybe I go try this. And so you just start building on top of things. And before you know it, you're like, wow, like there's a lot of things I can do in life that I didn't think I could do just by one little thing, push myself there.
Yeah, I would say the gym is like the catalyst to improving other area of your life. And I feel like it is because of that. It's not necessarily obviously like the health and the physical and then how you look is super important, but it's more of seeing like proving to yourself I can do this, building that self-worth, that confidence the commitment to yourself following through the discipline. It's like all the things that come from that and pushing yourself and challenging yourself that apply to everything else. So yeah, I think that's so perfectly said.
Well, and I love that too, that the gym is really open for anyone. There's if you want to go out there and hit a 100-mile-per-hour fastball, 99.9% of people can't do it. I don't care how much you try, how much you train, you're never gonna be able to hit that ball, right? But everyone can go in the gym and be successful in something in the gym. And so I think it's just a great place to be for that, and a great place to really build confidence in life. All right, now we do wanna also talk about kind of like the other side of this, right? Because there are times where you do need to pull back and the intensity is a little bit out of control or you're going too far, and it is actually beneficial to rein it back just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've been very open about that's kind of where I'm at now. It's like I'm pulling back a ton on everything. Like I can't push myself past 50% capacity in gym. I can't really do much. But like sometimes growth is doing less. And that's what I was talking to Sean too. Is like you can pour more intent into your workouts and more intention into recovery and other things. And that is what growth is going to look like. And sometimes it is pulling back and having fun with your workouts and things like that. But that's where proper programming and structure is so important to know when that is. And again, like you need to have the awareness of going through and finding those limits, be like, okay, now maybe it's time to pull back and recover a little bit more. So it just depends. And there's a lot of things you can focus on with that. And growth can be focusing on reducing stress and better recovery and better sleep and boundaries and all these things.
Yeah, and I mean, working out is amazing for you, and we could go on and on about the benefits, but it is a stressor, right? It is a stressor. So we want to make sure we're not adding so much stress and pushing it so far to where it's detrimental to any growth or benefits of it. I think there's some people that need to look at themselves and say, "Hey, you know what? My intensity is probably not nearly where it could be. Maybe I should go push myself." And I think there's some people like, "You know what? I've been training for 7 days a week for, 6 months now, and I am burnt out, and I'm tired, and I'm stressed out, and I see no results." Maybe pull that back a little bit. And there's a lot of ways to do it. Be aware of how your body's responding and use that to say, "Okay, what's the best decision for me?"
Hmm. Yeah, it's just understanding what's easier and having awareness of your body and like going through that to be able to know. So I guess I'm sure some people are thinking, listening to this, and you're like, all right, I'm probably not pushing hard enough. I was just like, how do they apply it?
Yeah, 'cause that's most likely most of the people who are listening are probably in that camp of, "I'm probably not pushing myself enough. I'm probably not, challenging myself enough," right? So, a couple things to ask yourself. Do I feel like I'm stopping because I physically can't keep going or because it's a little uncomfortable? I think that's a good thing to ask yourself. Am I actually progressing? Are you very consistent, but you just don't feel like you're building much muscle? The weights are not changing much. You're not your physique's not changing like you can. Am I getting stronger? That to me is like I probably should start with that. That's kind of what the key for me is. Are you getting stronger? Am I getting stronger? And if you are, you're probably in a good place. If not, that's where you might need to ask some of these other questions, right? Am I creating enough challenge week to week? And we're not talking about change up every single thing. Because I think also some people are like, oh, I need to change every single workout. Muscle confusion. Remember that little phrase that we had back in the day?
So dumb.
Well, yeah, and if you don't know, and then in the fitness industry, there used to be a time where we used to feel like we had to confuse. We use that word. We had to confuse our muscles. So like every time you get in there, do something crazy, something different. And that's why when people were like, standing at 1 foot doing bicep curl, it was like the craziest stuff. But what we mean by like, am I creating enough challenge? Like, am I challenging myself? Am I pushing myself beyond my limits of what I thought I could do before? Um, and most people have way more in them than they actually realize.
Yeah, and I think even to make it applicable, I think the biggest things that we talked about that people can go and implement is making sure that you're tracking all your workouts, seeing the progressions week to week, make sure that you're going in with intent to every single time. You should be looking back. You're like, hey, what did I do last week? Okay, I'm going to push and try to get more, whether that's weight or reps. And again, don't let the certain rep range hold you back. It's like more to go for the intensity, and that's where the proper programming is so important. And also, it's like recording yourself. I'm telling you, like that is one of the most powerful things to get insight on how hard you're actually training, and especially if you have a coach you can send it to and get that feedback. Like I love like all my clients that send me their form videos consistently is like they're getting the most amazing results because like we can really dial things, and not even just with form and cues and little things like that, but with the intensity. So I say like those are like the two biggest things to have that data to be able to know where you need to go, what you need to adjust. So Yeah, overall takeaway is most people are not overtraining. They're under challenged and staying where they feel safe and comfortable. And yes, sometimes growth looks like recovery. Sometimes it can look like boundaries and pulling back, but a lot of times it's probably more reps and pushing yourself a little bit more.
Yeah, I like what you just said, though. You said there a lot of people are under challenged, right? So go out there, find what hard actually feels like. You probably have a lot more in you than you think.
Yeah. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe and send to someone who trains hard or maybe thinks that they train hard. And we will catch you on the next one.